Hi everybody and welcome back to another episode of the Navs Effect. I am your host, Naveen Ganglani. It is 12:31 in the morning as I begin recording this episode. It's a little late. Got back from MOA Arena about an hour and a half ago. So after the game, talking about game one of the UAAP Finals. I'm sure many of you know that if you're watching this episode or listening to it. Thank you, by the way, for doing so. So after the game, we stayed for the post game media sessions with the coaches, talked to some of the players after, grabbed a quick bite, came home, drank a coffee, and we are ready to go because I feel like there's a lot to talk about from tonight's game. So a quick recap, the UP Fighting Maroons go up 1-0 after defeating Ateneo 72-66 in game 1 of the UAAP Season 85 Men's Basketball Finals. It is the third time in the last 4 years that UP and Ateneo are facing each other in the UAAP Finals. Of course, the first time back in 18, Ateneo won 2-0. The second time a few months ago, UAAP Season 84, the Maroons won in 3 games. And right now, UP is 1 win away from accomplishing what has never been done before and what might never happen again, which is having a team win 2 UAAP titles in the same calendar year. So after the Eagles defeated Adamson in the Final Four, while doing my post-game report for Rappler, I branded, well, not really branded, but kind of labeled this series, at least to me, as history versus retribution. History in the sense that UP can accomplish something that no one has ever done, which they're now closer to, as we mentioned, and Ateneo retribution, because of course they're looking for the chance to regain their championship. Well, right now, history is closer to happening than retribution. So let's take a look at the numbers quickly before we get into some of the notes I took down during the game and some other topics I want to get into later. Field goals, UP shoots 39.2% from the field, Ateneo 38.6%. So that's pretty even. Let's go to three-point shooting. Both teams didn't really shoot the ball so well from deep. UP 6 of 26, Ateneo 7 of 24. That's well, so I'm not sure if you, the listener, if you believe in the concept of regression to the mean, which is something that's used when talking about disparities in shooting splits game to game. Last time, I believe, if I'm not mistaken here, Ateneo went 16 of 28 against Adamson from downtown, which is just frankly absurd for college basketball. And maybe it's some regression, but they went 7 of 24 today. I think most of it, and Tab Baldwin agreed with this after the game, was that the shot quality UP provide or let Ateneo take, at least from downtown, was definitely more difficult than what Adamson did because, as Tab said, Adamson likes to gamble a little more with the shots they allow the opposing team. UP, on the other hand, played exceptional defense tonight, in my opinion. Of course, they were helped by some of Ateneo's own mistakes. Let's get into that now. The biggest wart, let's say, for in my opinion, was the free throw shooting for Ateneo. They went 15 of 26 from the line. Now, they haven't been the best free throw shooting team in the UAAP this season. In fact, last finals, I feel like their inability to defensive rebound rather, allowing offensive rebounds for UP, and inability to convert free throws came back to really haunt them in that final series against UP, especially because of how close it was. This is talking about season 84, and right here they lose by 6 points. They miss 11 free throws. Now it's not so cut and dry like that, where you can say, okay, if Ateneo just makes like 6 more free throws, this game would have gone to overtime. It's not really that simple because basketball is a game where you go from possession to possession, and each possession kind of provides the repercussions that lead to the next possessions, right? So maybe, well, let's not get so much into that, but definitely when you look at the stats, 15 of 26 from the foul line, that's not good. And I asked Coach Tab about this after the game, and he acknowledges that they're not a good free throw shooting team. He did say that they do work hard on improving their free throw shots. It just so happens that, it's the results haven't exactly played out to how they would like it to, especially in a game of this magnitude. So Kwame goes 3 of 6 from the line. Chris Kuhn went 4 of 4. He did well, but Padrigao 3 of 5. Ildefonso 2 of 4. Lazaro, 1 of 3. Gomez, 1 of 2. So those misses just pile up. UP didn't really shoot that much better. They went 8 of 14 from the foul stripe, but they beat Ateneo in other areas, talking about statistical categories that allowed them to get the win despite shooting average from the foul line, below average, really, both teams. UP scored 10 points off 15 Ateneo turnovers. The Blue Eagles had 1 point of the 12 turnovers of UP. You can't win. I mean, the fact that it was a 6-point game, Ateneo had a chance to steal the game at the end, goes to show that they did a good job getting back in the contest. But 1 point off turnovers, considering UP turned the ball over 12 times, that's just wasted opportunities. Now we'd have to look at the game tape properly to see why Ateneo didn't score off points off turnovers. But when the opposing team gives the ball up that many times, talking about UP here 12 times, you need to capitalize more than the Eagles did. You look at fast break points as well, 13 for UP, 1 for Ateneo. And you need those baskets. You need those 2-3 field goals in transition to help you out with the scoreboard, to give you a chance at the end of the game so that you're not playing from behind. Bench points. Now, this has been an issue for Ateneo all season. They were last in the league at 1 point. I'm not sure if they ended last at the end of the elimination round, but the bench scoring hasn't been good for them. And again, they get outscored by 20, 35-15 in terms of bench production. Second chance points. We talked about how offensive rebounds helped UP in season 84. UP had 17 offensive rebounds today. That led to 13 second chance points. 10 offensive rebounds for Ateneo that led to only 7 second chance Ateneo points. There were 2 particular offensive rebounds in the start of the fourth quarter, which both led to baskets for Galinato that I felt were huge momentum swings. Now, there were so many big plays from the game. We'll get into like Zave's blocks in a bit, but those 2 putbacks by Galinato, who I thought played good today, had 6 points in 11 minutes. I thought that allowed UP to keep Ateneo at bay early in the fourth quarter when the Blue Eagles could have taken momentum and maybe changed the game script a little bit there in the final quarter. Starter points, Ateneo did win that 51-37, but everything else, really, when you look at the numbers, UP outplayed Ateneo, and you can make a case that Ateneo had some self-inflicted mistakes. Now, I thought that the play which ultimately defined the result of the contest was Zave's block. His first block on Chris Kuhn. If I'm not mistaken, UP was leading by 2 at this point. Kuhn gets really an easy pathway to the rim. And then Zave comes last minute, blocks a shot. The UP crowd goes nuts after that block. It was one of those blocks where you put your hands in your head and you're like, my wow, because the athleticism required, the timing required, there was so little room for error in that kind of block attempt, and Zave did it so well. And then, of course, you get a block, the crowd is pumped up, you get in transition. Harold Alarcon, who I swear plays better when the stakes are high, he really does. He did in the Final Four against LaSalle last season, in the finals against Ateneo last season. He played good in big elimination round games this season. Again, in the finals, game 1, hits a 3 in transition, bam, 5-point game. So instead of you tying the game, you waking up the Ateneo crowd, momentum on your side, instead the lead is back up to 5. It's at least 2 possessions, and the UP crowd is excited. I don't think that 1 possession decided the game for UP, but I did think that that was the ultimate momentum swing, which allowed UP the runway to escape with the victory. Even if Ateneo did have a chance there at the end, they did get it back down to about 4 points. Could have been a major what if moment when you think about it. Like, what if Chris Kuhn decides to take a floater instead of taking it to the rim, maybe for a dunk, and converts that shot? Suddenly, the game is tied, even if Ateneo hasn't played well for most of the game, and momentum is on their side. So that play by Zave was a game changer. And of course, he had another big block towards the end on Kwame in the final minutes, which prevented Kwame from trimming the lead further. And again, allowed UP that separation, enough separation to escape with the win. When you look at the stats, the Again, we're going back to the stats here. Quarter by quarter, UP scored 28 points in the first period alone. They outscored Ateneo 28-19, but you look at the rest of the game, 16-14 second quarter Ateneo, 15-12 third quarter Ateneo, 18-16 UP fourth quarter. So Ateneo outscores UP when you don't include the first quarter of the contest. But that first quarter where I felt UP came out the more assertive squad, the more confident squad, they came out a team that wanted to establish its identity in this finals. They wanted to come up with the upper hand. And I thought they did that so well. I felt like Ateneo, at least from a competitive standpoint, wasn't ready to match that energy of the Fighting Maroons in the opening 10 minutes. Now, granted, UP did make some tough shots. I mean, Zave scored, JD scored, Henry scored, Carl scored, Spencer scored. So everyone was like, JD made 2 contested 3-pointers. But when you face a team like UP with so much individual talent and they make it all work collectively for like a stretch, it's so hard to beat them. And that was like an opening haymaker in like a boxing match. That's like an early haymaker that leaves a cut on another boxer that kind of handicaps them the rest of the way. So Ateneo played down 9 after the first quarter. Pretty much even, slight advantage for the Blue Eagles the rest of the way. It just so happens that that cushion that UP built in the first quarter just stayed there the rest of the way, and the Fighting Maroons rode that to victory, including making some big defensive and offensive plays to keep themselves ahead in the final quarter. Coach Goldwyn had an interesting lineup change today to start the first quarter. Instead of going with Malik and Carl in the starting unit, he goes with Henry and Zave, which is kind of a gamble. Not a gamble because you don't trust that lineup with Spencer, with JD, and I believe the other player with them was Abadiano, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, Jerry. Jerry started the game. They outscored the Ateneo starting lineup there. I mean, even with Kwame, with Dave, with Padrigal, with Andrade, Balungay, they outscored the Ateneo starting unit. And then the bench comes in. You've got the MVP of the UAAP, Malik Diouf, coming in. You got Carl coming in. Got Fertea. You got Cyril Gonzalez, who again played so well in limited minutes. And you got Alarcon. And suddenly, they're making their shots. They're building off the momentum that was started by the first 5. And again, that contributes to the first quarter I mentioned, where UP scores 28. And when you look at it, that essentially decided the game, that cushion that they built. So it was a bit of a gamble by Gold, but it worked out. I asked Coach Tab, was he surprised that after the game, was he surprised that Coach Gold would make a change like that, a surprise lineup change? And he said no, because as a coach, he knows that other coaches like tinker and like playing around with different lineups. But definitely, I thought it was a risky move just because, well, not super risky, actually, a little bit of a gamble because you're playing with the lineups and rotations that you've had the last few games. But it worked out. And when it works out, it looks great. If I had to guess, I didn't get to ask Coach Golden about the lineup change, but if I had to guess, they were also willing to take some of that risk because Ateneo's bench, like I mentioned, their scoring hasn't been great so far this season. And even if UP would have trailed early, maybe Carl comes in, Malik comes in, and they are able to catch up. Another reason why Coach Gold might have gone with the lineup change was because, number one, Malik wasn't 100% entering today's game. I learned from a source I trust that he had a little bit of a flu going on the last few days, and Carl was still recovering from that sprain that he suffered against NU. So perhaps starting the game with the healthier guys would benefit the team, and it looks like it did because they've got going early and he carried that great play throughout the rest of the game. I thought, again, like I mentioned, I thought Henry had good spurts. He ended up a -2, but I don't think that properly reflects what he was able to contribute today, especially with those baskets to start the fourth quarter. Coach Goldwyn Monteverde is now 5-3 against Tab Baldwin in the UAAP. No coach has had this kind of success against Baldwin because Coach Baldwin has been incredible in his time in the UAP. But Coach Gold, now, talent-wise, he does have a talented team that can match Ateneo, but you still need a coach to put all of that together, and he's done a superb job. Also, you have to acknowledge that Coach Gold does have a great set of assistant coaches too. Of course, Coach Tom Chua, one of them, the defensive coordinator, Christian Luanzon, and that whole staff is doing a good job. And you're seeing that preparation materialize in actual wins. These UP Maroons, they have film viewings at like 9, 10 p.m. after practices sometimes that go on for 3 hours just to prepare for a particular opponent they face. They are serious about their preparation, and you can see it with how they perform on the court. 8 guys scored at least 5 points for UP today. You watch the NBA, you guys know what the Warriors like as their mantra, right? Strength in numbers. Well, today you can use that to define how UP played. Coach Gold was also complimentary about how, in addition to the great defense they played, the ball movement was superb to start the contest. Swinging around, finding the open man, spreading the wealth, and that confidence that built up in each player because they were seeing the shots go in early wound up really beneficial for the team. I thought, again, like I mentioned, Cyril was superb. And in transition, he made some plays in the first quarter that were huge. I thought Harold and Zave had some great connections, made some big plays. When those two are together in the court, it feels like UP's defensive seeding races a little bit just because of how talented they are. I mean, and you add Spencer to that list too, that's a good defensive trio to have as your foundation. Now, another thing that surprised me was how, well, I wouldn't say surprised because UP is good with their man-to-man defense, especially when they really want to pressure you up and get on your grill and make it tough for you to make simple decisions like entry passes or passes across the court or just trying to run your sets. I did think that UP was going to play some zone because we saw them use a 1-3-1 zone defense against NU in the Final Four with Malik's shot blocking abilities kind of holding everything together in case things break down. But they went mostly man. And I thought we were going to see some zone, but maybe they didn't risk it because Ateneo was shooting great from deep the last few games. But the defensive strategy worked out. Like we mentioned, Ateneo played well the rest of the way after the first quarter. If they can play that consistently for 4 quarters, they would have a shot, but they will need better production from key players. For instance, Dave went 3 of 12 from the field, finished with 10 points, 7 rebounds, 3 turnovers, a -5, 2 of 7 from deep, 2 of 4 from the free throw line. So he is a threat from outside. Although I will say, Ateneo Dave, we haven't seen him attack the rim like we saw NU Dave did in his early days in the UAP. Now, some of that is schematic system. It's also when you've got Ange in the paint too, that kind of takes away your options of spacing you could use to really attack the rim. But I feel that Ateneo needs a Dave who attacks the rim or put pressure on the rim. I know it's hard given the defense UP has and all the players they can throw at him, but that's the Dave I think Ateneo needs more of. Not to say that the Dave they're getting now isn't a good player, because he is, but he has struggled in the last few matchups against UP, save for the second round battle this season. So maybe we see some new sets to get him going. Coach Sandy in the post-game presser mentioned that maybe they have to run a few unique concepts to get Dave going in different ways. So he's not always trying to manufacture offense from scratch against so many good defenders. That's something I would keep an eye out for in the next game. Game 2 is on Wednesday at Araneta Coliseum. Kai Balungay today, this was big in my opinion. He had 0 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, was a -6, took 3 shots, 2 3-pointers, missed both, 17 minutes. I did ask Coach Tab about Kai's performance too. I asked if maybe some of it was mental because this was his first finals game and there were more than 18,000 people today. That's something that is easier said than done when you try to say, "Oh yeah, I'm fine. I'll seamlessly transition to." No, it's not like that. It's hard when you've got that kind of intensity, that energy all around the arena, it's not easy to play your usual game, especially for someone doing it for the first time in a rivalry like this too. Coach Tab said though, the game that Kai had, that's a game that all players have. They have an off game from time to time. But I do think Ateneo will need the Kai Balungay we saw at the end of the elimination round in that game against Adamson. Aggressive, assertive Kai looks for his offense and creates for others. Maybe not just waiting for the kick out for the three ball, getting in the paint, getting those offensive rebounds. The 0 points, of course, you don't want to see that because someone of his talent, you'd like to see some scoring production. But the 2 rebounds, I think that's what would concern me more. In part also because UP out rebounded Ateneo 45-39. If Kai can get those offensive rebounds, those putbacks, if he can get the rebounds on the other end, start transition opportunities, push the ball, that could be major for Ateneo. I would like to see, if I'm a Blue Eagles fan, I would like to see a more assertive version of him because of what he is capable of doing. And what he's capable of is exactly what this team needs more of if they want to combat a UP team when UP collectively is hurting you from so many different weapons. I wouldn't expect a change in the starting lineup and the bench unit in game 2 for the Blue Eagles, despite some of the struggles. Now, putting one of the starters, like let's say put Dave in the bench unit or Kai, and not because they're being demoted, but because you need some scoring from the bench, that's not always guaranteed because the player will score what the player will score based on his talent and how he fits into the system. So I think that you're gonna see the same starting unit from Ateneo in game 2, if I had to guess right now. Although it's no secret, they will need more from the bench guys. Chris Kuhn, I thought, played okay today. He had 9 points, 2 of 7 shooting from the field, made these free throws, 4 out of 4, which, well, given how everyone else shot, you'll take that. 5 rebounds, only 2 turnovers. You need more, though. Lazaro, 3 points. Gio Chu, 2 points. Gab Gomez, 1 point. He had been playing better out of late. He did have 5 assists, so you have to credit him for that. But he only took 1 3-pointer and missed it, played in 16 minutes. Matthew Daves, 0 points in 10 minutes. And really, no one else contributed from the bench. That was the bench, 15 points. And you can't survive that way in this stage of the UAAP in the finals. You need more out of your supporting unit, especially if the starters are tasked not only to expend energy trying to put points on the board, but also stopping a UP team that's deep. Definitely, Ateneo will need some more production if they are to win game 2 from the other guys. Otherwise, UP is going to win the championship on Wednesday if the bench doesn't step up. That's not to say the starters can't completely carry the load. They can because they're talented. Kwame's talented, Ildefonso can score, Andrade can score. I thought Andrade had a good game today there towards the end. Maybe he needs to be a little more aggressive too because he has been playing well as of late. But definitely, they need more support from the relievers. Before the game today too, Coach Tab Baldwin, after the Adamson win on Wednesday in the Final Four, mentioned specifically how he wants the arenas filled to the brim with fans in blue and white, Ateneo fans, and even those fans who couldn't make it to support the team. And the next day, interestingly enough, I get a message from Renan Dalisay, chairman, founder of Nowhere to Go, but also asking UP fans to fill the arenas in support of the Fighting Maroons. And of course, that's part of the UAP Finals. You need that support. The boys need to hear the crowd. And both crowds showed up today, to be fair. Both did a great job cheering their respective teams on and taking part in the gamesmanship between the audience. That always goes on during the game. The asaran, the teasing. But from the Gen Ad section, I thought that there were more UP fans and Ateneo fans tonight. The UP Gen Ad section was almost filled. And for the Ateneo Gen Ad section, well, there were quite a few empty seats. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you if Ateneo had more fans today, they would have beaten UP because basketball isn't just determined by how many fans you have in the audience. But would it have helped? I would think so. Definitely. We'll see how it turns out in game 2. So just some other quick facts. And by the way, that was it for the Ateneo UP part of things. I will come up with an article. Hopefully I get to write it by Monday, which is when you'll be listening to this. So tune in for that or watch out for that. Again, I'm sorry. It's almost 1 a.m. I'm a little dazed here. But just some other topics I'd want to talk about today. The NU women's basketball team, the dominant dynasty that they are, absolutely destroyed LaSalle to win their seventh consecutive women's basketball championship, which, of course, is an incredible feat. I thought that NU really got the business done and laid the smackdown on DLSU's women's team after DLSU snapped their winning streak late in the elimination round. So after the contest, of course, Coach Cholo was there and he was proud of how his girls performed. DLSU for getting this far. I made it in time for LaSalle's post-game presser. So Coach Cholo's interesting, and that's because his name. Now, I'm not reporting this. This isn't confirmed or certain. Nothing. This is just word that's going around, and who knows? It might just be a word that's going around, but there is some, shall we say, encouragement from LaSalle fans and some alumni who would like to see Coach Cholo Villanueva handle the men's basketball team. Again, that's not to say that it's 100% sure right now that Coach Manong Derek Pamarin is out, but his contract does end this December in for DLSU, and there hasn't been news yet of that contract being renewed. What I was told before the season was that contract renewal would depend on the performance of the team, and well, many LaSalle fans were disappointed by how this team performed. So that's something to watch out for, how that's going to unfold. But if there is, now again, if there is a coaching change, there is some momentum or some encouragement from LaSalle fans to see Coach Cholo get the chance to handle the Green Archers. Why? Well, one, he was a former Green Archer. Two, he is Lasallian. Three, many consider him an innovative young coach who does a good job of building relationships with his players, which I think is going to be a point of emphasis for the next coach of the Green Archers. And four, again, I'm not reporting this, just saying what I'm hearing. I think he's ready for the task. I think he would like to accept the challenge. Again, just what I'm hearing, not something I've heard directly from the source or something I know for certain. But I think he is ready for the task and he would welcome the chance to coach what was his Green Archers before. And all I am going to say for now is if that does happen, there will be quite a few people who would be happy at seeing him get his chance, which many believe he deserves at this point of his career. Now, there's also some news, of course, of Coach Alden Ayo maybe coming back to DLSU, which was sparked a little bit by a social media post by a player on the team. Let's not get into those specifics right now, but about Alden to DLSU, there has been some noise, unconfirmed noise the last few weeks that maybe both sides would like a reunion. But all I'm going to say about that right now is Coach Alden is signed to a contract to coach Converge in the PBA. And until we hear something about that changing, I wouldn't exactly count on anything materializing just yet. There is also a ban by the UAAP on Coach Alden, which is another matter that would have to be tackled if a reunion would happen. Right now, I don't think we're close to like a reunion like that happening. If it does happen, of course, again, this is just hypothetical, but if it does happen, I would get why that would excite many LaSalle fans. You can say what you want to say about Coach Alden, but one thing he does know is how to help a college basketball program win games. And LaSalle hasn't won to the level that many fans have wanted them to the last few seasons. So some might welcome that, but that's not exactly so easy. And I think that right now, Coach Alden's, let's say, goals are targeted towards helping Converge in the PBA. But we also do know a lot of things change in Philippine basketball. So just watch out for that. Right now, I think it is Converge, which is his priority. I have also heard that maybe LaSalle would like to hire a foreign coach. Like, not reporting, just what I heard. but I don't know much about that area yet. Although that's something that seems to be the word around town every time they are looking for a new coach, which at this point has happened quite a lot. Since 2012, they've had seven coach. This is going to be their, if they replace Manong, it would be their seventh coach since 2012 in the last 10 years. Let's count it, right? That's Gia Banilla, 2012, Juno Sauler, Aldenayo, Louis Gonzalez, Jermaine Bird slash Gian Nazario, but we knew Jermaine Bird was also like helping call the shots. Derek Pumaren, and then if they get a new coach, that would be seven in the last 10 years. So you could see why the inconsistency has been prominent in the last few years for the Green Archers. But if they do get a new coach, hopefully it's a coach that will stay for a long time because some consistency might be good for DLSE basketball. If you want to laugh, you should check out Nick Cabanero's Twitter account tonight. Nick is a funny guy. UST top scorer this season. Now let's get one thing straight, okay? In my conversations with Nick, he is faithful to UST. He does want to see the Growling Tigers succeed with him there too. Nick also likes to win games and he's very competitive. And it's no secret that other schools would love to have him in their lineup via transfer if he so chooses to do that. But right now he's loyal to UST. However, if you are looking for a laugh, check out his Twitter account from the game tonight. He posted UP or Ateneo as a question. And someone like, should I read it verbatim? Okay, wait, I'm gonna read it word for word here, just because it gave me a crack, and it's a great example of the passion of fans and the player too in today's age. Let's see. So Nick posts a question, Ateneo or UP, on his Twitter account, and someone replies, "What audacity sa social media pa nagtanong tong ungas na to." I don't know what ungas means specifically, but I'm guessing it's not good. Di na nahiya sa Tomasian community. To which Nick replies, "Ha ha 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 ha, baliw kung sino kasi mag-champion and manalo," referring to his original question. Social media has its good sides, a lot of downsides, and it has its comedic sides from time to time. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that because that gave me a laugh. Going back to the Ateneo UP game, game one, personally, I thought it was going to go to overtime. Maybe it was a default mindset just because of how many overtime games these two teams have played. But I thought UP established itself as the better team today, and they deserve to win because they played much better. But that could flip in game two. We saw Ateneo flip the script in the second round. They looked like the better team that day. They could look like the better team in game two on Wednesday and force a deciding game three, which I believe would be on December 19. And woo, that will be a fiery contest if that happens. But Wednesday, I think the Maroons have a great chance to close the series out. I think momentum is on their side. I think that they've found a formula that works. And if they can replicate that just for one more game, maybe it's a closer game, maybe they pull out the stops, they make history. They win 2 championships in 1 year, might never happen again. And it is going to be something that they will remember. These boys will remember for the rest of their lives. They will remember that season 84 championship. But if they win 84 and 85, 20 years from now, they're sitting with their grandkids, their family, I mean, their kids rather, and there are going to be many stories for them to tell. Just a quick word too, I did chat with Chris Kuhn a little bit after the game. So he said his shoulder in that last play where Ateneo was down 4, few minutes left. He loses the ball because his shoulder gets dislocated. He did say it came out a bit, but he popped it back in. Asked him if he'd be ready for the game on Wednesday. He says he believes he will. So it looks like Chris Kuhn is going to give it a go. And given the bench production Ateneo got today from the rest of the roster, well, they could use Chris Kuhn definitely. Okay. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you watch via YouTube, do follow me on social media. If you're gonna be at the games and you see me by any chance, do say hi. Would love to chat for a quick moment. I want to thank many of you who have approached me during the games, telling me that they enjoy the podcast, that they listen, they watch, and also those who read my work. I had one person come up to me today, told a UP fan, told me that she listens to my work and she's also a Miami Heat fan. Of course, I covered the Miami Heat, and that was fun. So thank you for doing that, and for the rest of you who listen and watch, thank you. That's all really I want to say. For I appreciate it. Appreciate you guys and girls appreciating my hard work. And yeah, I hope that you will continue to listen and watch. Okay, I have talked for too long now. Peace. Good night and catch you after game 2.